With a fanfare, the Russian president takes to the stage for a longer-awaited State of the Nation address. But nearly a year since his invasion of Ukraine, no sign of remorse or regret, only bitterness towards the West.
The responsibility for fueling the Ukrainian conflict, for its escalation, for the number of victims lies completely with Western elites and, of course, with the current Kyiv regime, for whom the Ukrainian people are essentially strangers.
Blaming others is how the Kremlin tries to explain why its special military operation,
Let's move down this way.
meant to last just days or weeks, is almost in its second year, with no end in sight. Should we run that way? Across Russia, there were even public screenings of the speech to ensure the Kremlin message is heard, that military setbacks, failures and bloodshed are all part of a conspiracy to bring Russia to its knees.
The Western elites do not conceal their goals. As they say, it's a direct quote, to bring Russia a strategic defeat. What does that mean for us? It means to end us, once and for all. We understand it exactly and will react to it accordingly, because this is about the very existence of our country.
It doesn't feel that way in Ukraine, where troops are dying on bleak battlefields, defending grim front lines against a Russian foe. Ukrainian officials pouring scorn on Putin's remarks as irrelevant and confused. There's growing criticism in Russia too, as new images emerge of more coffins, reportedly from the front lines. One prominent Russian military blogger complained that Putin held back from officially declaring war. Not a word about failures and defeats, he writes. There's no point listening any further. But there was one major new announcement, one escalation. To applause, Putin suspending participation in Moscow's last remaining nuclear arms treaty with the United States, and a warning that Russia may restart nuclear tests.
Of course, we will not do it first. But if the US conducts its tests, we will do it as well. Nobody should have dangerous illusions that global strategic parity can be broken.
No illusion either when it comes to Russia's standoff with the West. The Kremlin is even thinking about backing down. Well, Jake, after hearing Putin's uncompromising speech, a source close to the Ukrainian president tells me tonight that he thinks only more Ukrainian victories on the battlefield will lead to peace talks. The sooner Ukraine gets the weapons it needs, this source told me, the sooner this war will be over. Jake, back to
Matthew Chance in London for us. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Now to horrifying images from Ukraine's southern port city of Kherson today, where earlier today a Russian strike killed 5 and injured more than a dozen people. A warning to viewers, this next video is graphic. Ukrainian officials say the shelling killed civilians in the middle of the street. Others damaged a market, a kindergarten, and a hospital. CNN's Sam Kiley is in the northeastern city of Kharkiv. And Sam, how are Ukrainians there feeling as the one-year mark of this brutal war approaches?
Well, they're feeling a lot more robust than they did in those first few weeks of the war, because a lot of the ground that the Russians took so quickly has been recovered from around here in Kharkiv back in September, and of course in Kherson, where that atrocity was committed today with 5 dead and more than a dozen injured in November. Now, since then, the fighting has been much more trench warfare as winter has set in. Both sides really fixed in position, very small movements on either side as the Ukrainians continue to beg for those strategic weapons they say are so important for driving the Russians out of the country. And I think what's important now with the Biden visit, both in Poland and recently in Kyiv, and recent statements coming from the European Union, there is now more and more of a signs of unanimity among those that support, those countries that support Ukraine, that victory for Ukraine is the absence, is driving Russians out of the country entirely, rather than allowing them to freeze their front lines, perhaps close to the frontline areas that they captured when they first invaded, Jake, back in 2014. Jake?
Sam Guiley in Kharkiv, Ukraine, thank you so much. Let's discuss all of this and more with the spokesman for the U.S. State Department, Ned Price. Ned, good to see you. Thanks for joining us. President Biden said every day this war continues, it's Putin's choice. But we keep seeing these horrifying attacks on civilians like the one we just talked about in Kherson. Sanctions have not changed Putin's mind or stopped his war machine. Further arms and aid packages, billions of dollars worth to Ukraine, haven't changed his mind. What can Western allies do to once and for all stop Putin from waging this war?
Well, Jake, quite simply, we can continue doing what we've been doing for over the course of a year now. To the point one of your correspondents made, we do see the nexus between what happens on the battlefield and what will ultimately happen at the negotiating table. We know, just like President Zelensky knows, that this war will have to end with diplomacy. It will have to end with negotiations. And right now, we're focused on strengthening our Ukrainian partners so that when, and I say when, that negotiating table emerges, our Ukrainian partners have as strong a hand as possible. That's on one side of the ledger. To your question, we're working on the other side of the ledger too. Just as we are supporting our Ukrainian partners, we're holding to account everyone in and around the Kremlin, everyone in and around Vladimir Putin who is in any way supporting this war. We've sanctioned hundreds of individuals. We'll have more announcements on that front later today. We've degraded Moscow's ability to project force beyond its borders, and everything we've done will have a compounding effect in the weeks and months to come.
I know that the president it's a balancing act. You don't want to get too far ahead of the American people. You don't want to get too far ahead of NATO allies. But you also don't want to let Putin get an advantage, and on and on. But there's a lot of criticism from people who want and supporting President Biden's efforts here to help Ukraine that we're always just a little too behind. We're helping Ukraine maintain a stalemate. We're not helping Ukraine win. And throughout Warsaw, signs and banners appeared encouraging Biden to send F-16 fighter jets to Ukraine. Former Secretary of Defense Leon Panetta agreed. He said everything, including those fighter jets, should be on the table. Why not let the Ukrainians have the F-16 fighter jets?
Well, Jake, when you're in this line of work, you hear a lot of criticism. We've heard criticism of the kind that you just described. We've heard criticism from the other direction, that we're doing too much. But I think if you want to take a look at the effectiveness of the campaign that we've marshaled with dozens of countries around the world since even before Russia started this brutal war of aggression, you need only look at what the Ukrainians have accomplished on the battlefield. There are two key ingredients. Number one, and most important, is their grit, their determination, their resilience. But secondly, the United States and our partners around the world, we have enabled some of this tremendous battlefield success by providing them with precisely what they need for the battle they're in at the moment and for where the battle is headed. So in the earliest hours of this war, our Ukrainian partners were equipped with what they needed to ultimately win the Battle of Kyiv. In more recent months, we've provided them with the longer range systems, with the air defense systems, with the mobile tanks and armored vehicles, precisely what they will need as this battle rages in the east, as it rages in the Donbass, where it's continuing to grind out. So that will continue. We're having this conversation with the Ukrainians first and foremost to determine what they may need, and then we're having this conversation with our allies and partners around the world and here at home to see what it is that we have and what we can provide our Ukrainian partners to continue this remarkable success and progress that they've had on the battlefield. Obviously,
this war is very unlikely to end with Putin gone and a democratic, reformed Russia emerging. So bearing that in mind, there does need to be an off-ramp for Putin, some way that he can end this war and maintain some sort of diplomatic cover. What's the off-ramp? How to do that?
So the off-ramp is very clear, Jake. President Putin started this war a year ago. He could end this war today. He could end this war tomorrow. Now, you're under no illusions. I'm under no illusions that's going to happen today or tomorrow. So in the interim, we're going to continue to do what we've done. But frankly, look, our strategy has proven effective. There have been naysayers all along that we aren't doing enough, or we're doing too much, or that we heard a year ago that Ukraine would be no match for the Russian invading forces. Well, at every step of the way, this coalition that's been brought together by diplomacy out of this building, by leadership from the president, it has stuck together. Not only has it stuck together, but it's actually strengthened. And and I think it's strengthened in large part because of American leadership, and it's strengthened because of the messages we're hearing on the world stage. Just today, Jake, you heard two vintage presentations. You heard vintage Vladimir Putin, and you heard vintage Joe Biden. From Moscow, you heard something that was dark, it was sinister, it was full of lies and misinformation and disinformation, precisely because the Russian president has nothing affirmative to offer his people in the face of these battlefield setbacks and Moscow's strategic failure. From Joe Biden, you heard vintage Joe Biden. It was affirmative. It was really crystallizing the stakes at what's at play here. This is about Ukraine in the first instance, but what is happening in Ukraine is about the rules-based order, and countries around the world are watching very closely to what Russia is trying to do, but more so, they're watching the way in which the rest of the world, galvanized by American leadership, is standing up for Ukraine, standing up against Russia, and doing so with such tremendous effectiveness.